I share that story because a lot of times when I talk about character, people say, well, that's just something you have. Can character really be developed? And why did West Point spend so much time developing character, and do they still develop character in the cadets, these 18-year-olds that show up and 4 years later leave to be leaders in our country, leading our soldiers? Why do they spend so much time on it? Because character is what an organization rises and falls with. And an individual, the success of an individual rises and falls with character. And so, in homage to my father and Major Tatu, who taught me a lot about courage and taught me a lot about character, I want to share with you, this is really, I call this my leadership philosophy, but this is my father's leadership philosophy. This is a philosophy that is taught at West Point. Leadership is a blend of competence and character. Okay? Leadership is a blend of competence and character. Now, when you think about it, say competence. Well, what is competence? Those are the skills you teach. Those are the skills you learn. I mean, really, competence is a price of admission to leadership. You got to be good at what you do. You got to be good. You got to have the skills. You got to know how in sales. You got to know how to empathize with your customer. You need to know your product. You need to know your competitor. You need to know how to go in there and compare and win, and know how to close and get the business. Those are skills. But what you see is over and over and over again. We were speaking about it right before we started here. If you think about any leadership failure that you think of in the news or in history, is it ever an issue of a failure in competence in leadership? It's almost always a failure in character. Think about it. We just mentioned Bobby Petrino. Does he know how to coach football? Absolutely. Is he a successful football coach? Absolutely. It wasn't that he couldn't coach football. It was a failure in character of his that caused his downfall at Arkansas. Penn State, we mentioned Penn State. Penn State knows how to run an athletic department. I mean, they've had multiple national championships over and over and over again. It wasn't about that they couldn't run an athletic department. But at the time of testing, at the time when somebody had to step forward with courage and say, and this was years ago, somebody should have stepped forward and said, there's something going on here wrong, we got to get this guy away from kids. Somebody didn't have the courage to do that. It was a failure in character. Yet in corporate America, in nonprofit America, anywhere we go, we spend all our time training skills. We spend all our time talking about the competencies that you need to be successful. We hire people based on their skills. We look at resumes and we say, hey, this person's done this, they've done this, they've done this. We'll even test their skills before they come in. But if you look at history, you look at just recent history like what I just shared, it's not competence that people fail, where people fail. Y'all are probably thinking right now some people you worked with in the past. You say, yeah, that guy could have done the job, but there was something inside of him or her that was missing. And that's where my focus is. That's why I want to talk today about character and building character and what do we do with it and how do we enhance the character of this organization, of KLTV here. What do you do, whether or not you're the top dog or you're on the front lines and you're out there seeing customers? How can you influence not only your own character, but the character of the organization as well? Okay, but bottom line, West Point is a leadership school, and the foundation of it all is character. So yes, I'm standing up here saying yes, character can be taught. Character can be enhanced. You're just not born with it. You have the ability to change who you are if you're willing to focus on it. And your organizations are able to change who they are on the inside if you focus on it, if you spend time on it beyond just skills, if you start talking about the topics of character. So, how do you build character? How do you build character? Well, it's a process that, as I've studied it, as I've looked back at my time at West Point, as I've seen it through the years, as I've read about it, as my father has taught me about it, character begins with your thoughts. And it's what you think about. I know on the way here, somebody cut me off on Broadway. I thought some pretty evil thoughts right about that moment, because that person was humming down Broadway. And we've all done that. We all have evil thoughts at a certain point. But our thoughts become our words. if I allow my thoughts to become my words, then I better hope my kids aren't in the back seat hearing what I'm about to say, right? And then our words become our actions. And then actions over time, repeated over time, become our habits. And our habits are what form our character. Think about that. Our habits are what form our character. So, just because I helped the old lady across the street once, does that make me a servant? Probably not. If I am in the habit of serving, if I am in the habit of going out and helping others, if I see a need and I address it, if I never tell a lie, if I always look at a situation and I say, what is the right thing to do, and I consistently do it, then I am a person of character, of high character. Now, on the other end of it are the people who tell little white lies over and over again, find ways to get out of work, find ways to maybe call in sick, those type of things. And if that's a habit of yours, and you consider yourself a person of high character, start thinking differently and start acting differently.